this category is very special to me because I really do believe that one day I really want to win this one day. Like, if there's any Oscar I really want to win, it's this. So, if ever I do and I'll talk about it here, you were the first to hear about it. So, I hope so. Okay, so this is part 15 of my Oscar coverage. This is Best Original Screenplay. Now, the criteria for this, again, it's pretty much the same as adapted. It's hard for me to talk about writing. I usually narrow it down to plot, character, and dialogue, and plus setting if, they can use setting well. Again, the message or the originality of a script does not equal quality, okay? Just because a movie is more predictable than something else, or if the message isn't exactly happy or uplifting, doesn't mean it's a bad movie. And again, of course, there are always different scripts needed for different films. So, you really can't judge these, in my opinion, objectively. Like, it really is a matter of taste. Okay, so the nominees for Best Original Screenplay are American Hustle, Eric Warren Singer and David O. Russell; Blue Jasmine, Woody Allen; Dallas Buyers Club, Craig Borton and Melissa Wallach; Her, Spike Jonze; and Nebraska, Bob Nelson. Now, again, this is a typical list in the sense that all the nominees, they were also nominated for Best Picture, except for Blue Jasmine, though, so it's nice to see that there. But, it's Woody Allen, he gets nominated, like, all the time. However, they are still all deserving, and again, it is very tough to put them into order, so let's just get into it. Number 5, I'm going to put Dallas Buyers Club. Now, Dallas Buyers Club, again, is based on a true story, and it's an amazing story, really. Just the fact that someone can pretty much turn his life around and prove all those doctors wrong back when the AIDS scare was still new and no one knew what to do about it. The things this guy does to kind of turn his life around is really inspiring. And what I like so much is that it reflects the issue through a very personal lens. It doesn't really go like super political on it. I mean, there are political implications and stuff, but that really is just like kind of like the background of it. The story really is Ron Woodroof's story. But it's really the characters that make up for any possible cliches in this story. I mean, just Ron Woodruff's real persistence and determination to, get these unapproved drugs over the States. And all these other characters, especially Rayon, played by Jared Leto, who really, they're just very, very human to the point that you really do care about what happens to them, even if you might see it coming. And, just their relationship is very, very believable. And what I like so much is that no one's perfect, just because, they're finding ways to cure themselves doesn't mean they're going to be fine and dandy all the time. Matthew McConaughey's character is still very horny, I guess, and Jared Leto's character still has his flaws. What I like so much about the dialogue is that it really does reflect Ron Woodruff's changing state of mind. While these characters still have that kind of swagger about them, they still are very self-confident. It also does reflect the fact that they are still mindful of the fact that they are in a very tough situation and they never kind of lose sight of that. It never becomes like this happy, inspirational tale. There's always this undercurrent of dread. However, it does end up at 5th place because one of my problems with Dallas Buyers Club was with how not all of the relationships I thought were fleshed out as well as they could have been. I thought they skipped over some important plot points, so that really does lower it down. Now, at 4th place, I'm going to put American Hustle. American Hustle had a script that really rode a line like so much the entire movie. Like, it was at such danger of falling into a wrong place. Like, it almost gets convoluted and it almost is jarring from drama to comedy, but it never crosses that line. American Hustle's plot is very complex, but it's not convoluted, so it still is possible to follow it, so that the things that happen near the end, little twists and stuff, they are still very effective because how they affect the characters. The cool thing about all the characters here, the main characters, they're all pretty much con men, even if they're not con men. They're all trying to fool people into thinking that they are someone they are not, or they are better than that they actually are. They're all extremely different characters with very strong personalities, and they relate to each other very differently. But in that respect, they are all equal. Again, like I said, David O. Russell and Eric Warren Singer, they really keep this balance between drama and comedy. And I think the balance they strike is so perfect to the point that, it actually begins to feel like the same thing. It doesn't feel like they're shifting from drama to comedy. It feels like the entire thing is in this tone of drama comedy at the exact same time. And I like how they chose not to focus on, processes of being a con man and, law and stuff like that. They really focus on like their inner workings, how the things they do affect their lives, why they do the things they do. It's a very character driven movie. However, it does end up at 4th place because I do think it's a bit too unfocused at certain points. But speaking of focus, that's what third place for me has in spades, and has Nebraska. Nebraska is such a tightly written script. It is so, single-minded and straightforward about, what the message it wants to put across, and I think it does it really, really well. Nebraska is an extremely simple story about very simple things, simple characters, but they reflect like very important truths about these characters and about old age and stuff like that. And sometimes simplicity really does beat complexity because it is tough to pull off simplicity because you have to be very dedicated in doing it. You have to make sure that the thing at the end, like the message you're trying to get to, was worth just being simple. What I like so much about the characters in Nebraska is that they're all kind of stuck in an older time. All these old characters are pretty much reminiscing about the past. The present isn't very intriguing to them, and even like the younger characters, like Will Forte's character, he is very old-fashioned in the sense that he can't really he wants his dad to be a certain way, etc., etc. And what I like so much about these characters is that they appear very simple on the surface, but there is always motivation to be found, and this entire movie is about kind of finding, you know, why they are the way they are. In terms of the dialogue, again, it's so straightforward. Like it really feels like every line was crafted to perfection, just to have just this right amount of honesty, really. And like all these characters are very honest in what they say. It's very straightforward. And the dialogue really does reflect their lifestyle perfectly. When these people are just talking about tractors and cars and how long it took for them to get to Nebraska and stuff. Like in other movies, I don't think this would have worked, but here it just feels natural. It really does feel like what they would talk about. Nebraska does have its slow moments though, when I would have liked the script to be a bit more exciting, yeah, but it is, for what it is very good script, so it ends up at third place. Now at second place, I'm going to put Blue Jasmine. Now Blue Jasmine is very definitely a character study. It's not really driven by plot or anything. The focus is on this character, Jasmine, and this movie uses this fractured narrative that it took me a while to figure out it was using this, but I think it uses it very well because again, it's not really about the chronology of events. It really is about this character, and they used flashbacks in a very good way because they didn't show any time cards or anything. It was just like, oh, here's what she's like, and that really gave me the sense that, oh, I'm not supposed to care about the arrangement of these events. It's really just building up her character. To me, the two central characters in this movie are really Jasmine and her sister Ginger, played by Sally Hawkins. And there are parallels between these sisters that are very thought-provoking because, for one, they do show different, they are different in the sense that, Jasmine acts a certain way when it comes to relationships and Ginger acts a certain way also. But then at the end, you kind of are left to wonder, like, who does it better, who treats relationships better. And what I like is that Woody Allen doesn't really give us that answer, so it really is intriguing. And I thought the script of Blue Jasmine is very literary in a sense. I'm not really sure what that means exactly, but I could imagine it be reading like a book, like its use of repeating motifs and stuff, metaphors and whatnot. I thought it was all handled very well, but it's still done realistically because Jasmine has a bunch of monologues, but when she does them, she's talking to herself, and everyone else thinks she's crazy, and I really, really appreciated that. However, at first place, I really do have to put her. Her is just so original and so imaginative in its story, and really just when it comes to these original plots and stuff, you can play it safe and not go all the way, just to kind of limit yourself to the things you're going to explore, and that works too. But Spike Jonze really challenged himself, and he explored so much about this potentially, dangerous topic, and he, pulled it off with flying colors. And her script really does have extremely real characters, especially really surprising for a movie that's set in like the near future. And Spike Jonze really understands that you don't need to physically be there. Your character doesn't need to be a physical being for you to be able to relate to that being. I'm talking about Samantha, of course, voiced by Scarlett Johansson in the movie. And just the relationship between Theodore and Samantha is so unbelievably real for a guy and an OS. The thing that works so much about her is that Spike Jonze doesn't necessarily present us with, okay, this is love, and then we're gonna stem everything else from that. He really deconstructs it down to bare level, just OS meets guy, and then they start something completely new and fresh. And I really mean that because Samantha knows absolutely nothing at first, and then like the relationship keeps growing. What I love is that Theodore reaches a certain level of maturity, but since he's human, he can only reach at that level, while Samantha just keeps on going, and you have to see them kind of cope with that. Among all the original screenplay nominees, her was really the one that when I was watching it and I was listening to the dialogue, I was really just thinking, like, how did this guy pull it off? Like, he's like, this script is genius in my opinion. So good job, Spike Jonze. As for who is going to win the Oscar, I'm going to have it to give it to her also because it's won a whole lot of other awards, and her is probably not going to win any other award this year, and the Academy, recognizes that. So I'm pretty sure they will give this to her just so her wins something. Dallas Buyers Club, American Hustle, and Nebraska all put up really good fights. Also, I just think her is has been on too much of a streak. Woody Allen had a really good chance of winning Blue Jasmine until all the controversy struck. So, the Academy doesn't like controversy, so they will stay away from that. Because if they award it to Woody Allen, they're going to get flamed for it. So, yes, her and her, those are my choices. What do you guys think of this year's roster for Best Original Screenplay? Who do you think should win? Who do you think will win? Whatever you think, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.